Alright guys, it's Chatterbox Reviews, coming at you guys with my review for Succession Season 2, Episode 5. Alright, so we're officially halfway through Season 2 now, and there still hasn't been a bad episode or even a mediocre episode. I don't think this one is the best of the season by any means because, I think last episode was really, really great. I think this was a step down from that one, but that is still really good, right? Like, this episode was great once again. I felt like it was just a little bit unbalanced in terms of the pacing, and I'll give some more of my thoughts on that later, and that was kind of my main problem with it. But such great moments throughout this one, and the last like 5 to 10 minutes of this episode were just amazing. Like, just an incredible ride, and very tense. Just a really, really great sequence to end off the episode. So anyways, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this episode. What did you think of it? Is it, your favorite of the season so far? Let me know what you think of it in terms of some of the other episodes. And let me know what you're thinking of the season so far. I know a lot of people are loving it the same way I am. This is my favorite show on TV right now, and it may very well end up being my favorite show of 2019 by the end of the year if they keep this going. It really is that good. So anyways, and then we'll have to see how they do at the Emmys in a couple weeks for Season 1. Probably doubtful that they'll win, anything with Game of Thrones in there, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see what they how they do, and I'm gonna be really cheering them on. But anyways, yeah, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this one. And if you enjoy the review, please leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel as well. Would really appreciate that. But anyways, without any further ado, let's get into a bit of a recap of the episode, going over some of the major points in this one and some of the major developments for the characters. Then get to my rating, favorite character, and some more overall thoughts and some predictions as to what I kind of see going on, going forward, with mainly with Shiv and Logan. That's what we've kind of been focusing on at the ends of these episodes, and that's what I like to talk about as well towards the end. But anyways, so let's get into this one. So again, like I said, the first half is a little bit slower, so I don't have a lot of stuff to talk about. So that's why most of this stuff is going to be focused on the end half of the episode. Either way. So we start off this one, Logan and family plus Gerry and Frank. I believe that was it, who came. Of course, the family includes everybody's, spouse or girlfriend, right? So we got Connor and his girlfriend. Roman and his girlfriend, right, and all that stuff, Shiv and Tom, right? So anyway, so they attend the Pierce family home in Tern Haven, and that's the title of the episode in this one, and that's pretty much where the whole episode takes place, except for a couple scenes in the apartment, right, from very early on and then at the very end. So they want to get a better look at them to see if they can really trust them before they accept the $24 billion offer, and of course that is the Pierces, right? Pierce invite them over to their home to get a better look at them, and we see that, Logan was trying to get Rhea to say to them, they can trust him, right? And now trust was a big factor in the whole thing, and so that's exactly what they're doing here, right? They want to invite them over and see if they can trust them. So Logan, then we see, so this was awesome. So they had this kind of debriefing meeting in the apartment before they go off to Tern Haven, to the family home, and so it kind of debriefs the family. We see and he says, everyone is on their best behavior, right? Everybody has to be. He says a 2-drink limit, right? No comments on this, no comments on that. Tells, Roman not to tell them about the training program. So all of this stuff, he goes down the list, and is essentially telling everybody to be completely fake, right? Like, don't show your real self at all this weekend at the house. Put on this kind of fake act. And kind of be your best, right? And even like some of these things that he's asking of them is like things that they just don't do normally, and he knows that, right? He's asking a lot from them. So Tom, so this was great as well, a really great comedic shtick that actually follows up later in the episode. So anyway, so he's saying like everybody on their best behavior. Oh yeah. And Tom is going to get picked on. So he is going to be the straw man for Etienne because they want to set up this thing that Logan he's not actually involved with Etienne. So he is kind of, just delegating all of the blame and all of the discussion about Etienne to Tom. And then, they're going to build him up to be this straw man. And so everybody can just hate on him and do all these pot shots on Tom, right when they bring up Etienne. So Logan can kind of push that responsibility onto somebody else. Anyways, and so Logan says he's the shitbag, right? They're gonna call him the shitbag. So anyways, just a hilarious thing. And we see and Tom kind of like asks why they can't just put it on Sid, right? Who's the actual, person who operates ATN and who's in charge of a lot of this stuff and actually makes a lot of those decisions. And Logan just refuses. He's like, no, right? No, it's going to be you, Tom, right? And this also kind of puts a face to it as well. I mean, some of the peers may not know who Sid is, and Sid is not going to be at the dinner. So it makes sense. And I love it that Tom just accepts it. He's like, oh, okay, all right, okay, right? So he just accepts the role of essentially getting shit on here by the Roys, but also the Pierces. Like, they're both going to go at him. Anyways, and so that really plays into later. So as they arrive in the helicopters to Ternhaven, to the house there, and some really great shots of this, by the way. I love the way that they film the show, of course, right, with the constant zoom in, zoom outs, the kind of panning shots. I just love the way that they film the show, just like the camera work itself, and that really lends to some really great shots here with the helicopters. I love how they're kind of on the helipad and then they zoom in really close. It almost gets a feel of like this paparazzi following the Roy family, right? How they're zooming in and trying to get these really close-up shots of the family members. Anyways, I just really wanted to touch on that because I thought that was a really great touch, and it always is, like in every one of these episodes when they have scenes like this with the helicopters, especially in the premiere too, right? Adam McKay was the director for that one, of course, kind of set the stage for the rest of the directors. This one was directed by Mark Mylod, I think, and he's been a director on Game of Thrones, Shameless, a bunch of these, and so he's kind of adopting this as well, and I just thought it looked really, really great. But anyways, so they come down with the helicopters, they greet the other family, the Pierce family, and they go inside. Some notable actors here too that are playing the other side of the family. We got Sherry Jones, who plays Nan Pierce, and what is his name? Something Craig Kittleman, I think is his name. He's been in Breaking Bad and some others, and he plays, I believe, Mark Pierce, right? And he's the guy who sits at the end of the table at the dinner, and he's great. So, anyways, just some really great casting here for the Pierce family. But, anyways, so we see that each person in the Roy family has a role to play in talking to the opposing family member, someone who's kind of on their same level, who they can kind of relate to in a way. And so things seem to be going good. They're having like a little bit of a cocktail party, right? Meet and greet where they kind of talk to each other. And so everything seems to be going good. Maybe a couple mishaps here and there. And then Logan just pulls everybody in the room and coaches them then on what they're doing wrong. And there's literally like two things that happen here that were like maybe a little bit of a misstep, right? And Logan is just freaking out about this, tells everybody that they're doing a horrible job and all this stuff, and reminds people who's on who, right? Almost like a coach, like, you're guarding him, you know what I mean? And so he tells, and he kind of repositions some people because stuff is just not working, one of them being Connor's match. Anyway, so he starts delegating these roles, and then sends all of them back out there, back into the party. And now this is just a hilarious scene as well, but it also shows like Logan's kind of paranoia here, and he's so on edge because he needs this to go through and he needs this to go well, and he's just so on edge, and that's, you see here that Marcia, right, she even makes a statement to him about his aggression here, and just how mean and how controlling he's being to everybody in the family, right? In this scene, and I really like Marcia's part in this episode. She hasn't actually had a significant role in any episode up to this one, and so I thought that was pretty good too. But anyway, some notable things from this scene was the hyena farm line on Roman's laugh. Just such a great line there by Logan, saying, we didn't get you from a hyena farm, right? Like, don't laugh so loud. Anyway, it's just so funny, right? Because it's a Roman's natural laugh, and Logan wants him to change anything. So all in all, we can see how how all these things and how Logan is being so, like I said, so controlling of all of his kids here, and how serious he's taking this, because this really is like a big deal to him, and that's why it makes such a great scene at the very end of this episode, because here he's being so serious, so kind of uptight, if you will, putting on this kind of fake mask. and then at the end it all just kind of goes up in flames, and that's what's really great about it. But anyways, so later that night, the families get together for a dinner, and all seems to be going okay, including the bashing on Tom begins. That was just so funny, but it actually kind of backfires on them. It was a good idea at first. Everyone's kind of bashing on him, calling him whatever, and Tom's just like going with it, calling himself, a fascist or some alt-right and all these stuff, right? Anyways, and so, but then it becomes problematic because they ask if he will be kept on for head of news, right, with the new acquisition. And it almost seems like Logan really didn't think of this when they got the whole idea of bashing Tom and putting kind of a straw man in that room. They didn't think of, oh, wait, like, this guy is now going to be the head of news for Pierce as well. And so it just becomes a really awkward situation where they ask pretty much in front of Tom, like, is Tom going to still have this job? And Logan's like, no, like, trying to play it off. And so anyways, I thought that was just a really great sequence and kind of a backfire as well. And then we see a couple other things go wrong, including Connor's disagreement with his counterpart on politics. This was a really funny thing here. And actually thinking back to it, was Connor's girlfriend there? I don't remember her being there or being in a scene with Connor. But anyways, this is just fantastic, right? Like the way that Connor interacts with them, and this guy's called him all the names, and he's like, well, I'm just for liberty and justice, but and what does he say? He says, oh yeah, for everybody for your own strokes or something like that, right? And so it's just a really funny kind of back and forth between these two, but ends up with Connor swearing at him and calling these names and stuff. And then we see Roman makes up this novel, right, about this about, I think it was called Electric Circus or something he suggests, and it's totally fake. Anyway, so just a couple little things, and I really love the way this was filmed. We're kind of zooming in on these separate conversations at the dinner table, but they're all still going on, right? And then another one was Kendal and Naomi, and that comes back later. So some just really great way of putting the scene together. So then things turn to business talk, and this is where things kind of start to get heated and kind of get a little bit more intense. So the room gets a little bit of heavy here until we reach the ultimate climax, where Nan Pierce then asks Logan who he's going to appoint in his place. And at this point, like, it just becomes, again, like, the room really heavy, the tension is rising, and it's just like you almost, it's like an uncomfortable scene to watch. Like, that's how intense this is, and that's how much kind of, I guess, awkwardness is into this, right? Of them asking in front of this whole table who Logan's going to appoint. And then this leads to Logan, so he hesitates right away, right? And he's like, well, like, we're still working through that and all that stuff. And then Shiv gives him this look, and they go on Shiv's face, and it's like, I paused it. I'm like, I can't watch this. Like, this is going to be so bad to watch this play out. And of course, it happens. So Shiv steps in and tells them it's her. She says, you can tell them, Dad. You can tell them that you picked me, that I'm going to be the new CEO. And it's like, it's just such a hard scene to watch. You're just so uncomfortable, so awkward. And you feel like, the way that Brian Cox plays this is great, in his facial reaction. And Logan, he's just kind of broken at this. Like, he just can't fathom. He's just, like, so taken aback by Shiv exposing this. And so Logan and Shiv's secret is finally out. And we see the reaction from Roman and Kendal, just dumbfounded, along with pretty much everybody else at the table. I mean, I don't think anybody there expected that. Us viewers didn't either when it happened. So anyways, I just thought, what an intense scene here. And then we see Logan is trying to play it off a little bit, which ends up being the wrong decision, the wrong move here, which makes it worse because the one guy suggests, like, oh, they haven't worked things out enough internally for a takeover deal. Like, maybe this dinner was too premature or something like that. And he has a point, right? He has a point. If they're still working things out and they don't know who's getting appointed and all this stuff, that obviously could be a problem. And so anyways, I thought that was a really crazy scene, and things begin to get very heated here. Just a very heavy room until Nan Pierce finally breaks it up and suggests that they walk outside. They walk outside to see the stars or something like that, go stargazing. Mark shows them around. Anyways, so then that clears the room, right, and ends up leaving Shiv and Logan alone. And I'm getting ready. I'm like, okay, Logan's going to chew her out. He's going to yell at her here. This is going to be like completely, it's just going to be ape shit, right? Like Logan's going to go crazy. And he doesn't. He just elects not to talk to her and just walks out, acting completely normally. He's like, well, shall we go? And to me, it's like, this is bad news. To me, if he would have yelled at her and all that stuff, I'm like, okay, that's pretty harsh, but okay. But him not talking to her here, I think that's even worse. So this is just a terrible thing that happens here. Probably not a good thing for Shiv to do here. Obviously, because they're pretty much fucked at this point, because Shiv reveals this and obviously unearths this kind of turmoil that's still going on. But I do understand Shiv's frustration with Logan holding out on telling them. And so you do understand where Shiv's coming from here. And again, the scene after this with Tom was really great. But it's like you understand where she's coming from. It's just the worst possible time that this could have played out. And she really screwed them. She really did. So what an intense scene to watch right now. They're pretty much screwed. As I said, this really just fucks up everything that they were going for, especially what Logan was going for. And then we see the aftermath with Shiv and Tom, and she knows that she blew it. And that was a very kind of, heartbreaking scene as well, to watch Shiv kind of break down. And that was, I think, one of the first scenes that we've seen of her, like, breaking down like that at Logan. We see her kind of trying to play off, trying to be, funny about it and stuff. But she was, just shaken up, completely shaken up, almost in shock at what just happened, because she knows exactly what she did. She blew it up, right? She destroyed it. So, and Tom's trying to comfort her. Anyways, really intense scene. So then I want to talk about this. So the rest of the night plays out following two plots in particular, which was Roman and Kendal. And I thought both these were really interesting, especially the Roman one. So anyways, so we see Roman and Tabitha exploring this, I guess, so they haven't had sex in a while, and we see Tabitha say that at the dinner table, and so Roman is kind of willing to have sex, but he wants to explore these kind of odd sexual fetishes that he has, and Tabitha's not really understanding where he's coming from with this or what this is all about. So, we see Tabitha frustrated here, and then it ends up that this doesn't really work. Like, they can't have sex with each other because of Roman's kind of odd, fantasies here, and that she doesn't really understand that. So anyways, so as a result, she just goes into the bathroom and says she's going to masturbate. So Roman goes over to Gerry's room, and so they start off by discussing the Shiv thing, right? And a little small talk here and there, and he has a couple glasses of, rum or whiskey or something like that. Anyways, and so a couple minutes later then, Gerry figures out why he's actually there. He's not there to talk about the Shiv thing. He came for, so he came to essentially get off, right? So she ends up playing along with this and makes him go into the bathroom while she talks to him, and we see her smile. And so I think this is just such an interesting development here, and gives some more context to last episode's scene with Roman and her on the phone. And I think it's something to watch going forward as well with this relationship with Roman and Gerry. Just really odd, but I mean, it is kind of what Roman's into, and again, we get this kind of context of it, and it really, I think the most interesting part of this is actually that Gerry is going along with it, and, the way she's smiling, I'm not sure she quite enjoys it, but she's not against it, you know what I mean? So, that, I think, is the most interesting part of this, and I think it is something to watch going forward. Now, again, I don't think that Gerry and Roman are actually going to have sex at any point, but it is just a really odd dynamic, and it's something that it's interesting that they're exploring, to say the least. But anyways, so then we get to Kendal, so we see him and Naomi somewhat bonding at the star thing, where they're watching the stars, and then that leads them to doing cocaine and drinking together. Of course, they're both in recovery, as they tell each other, so, obviously, the recovery a little bit tougher, than both of them are kind of letting on, of course. Anyways, so then it takes them to the helicopter eventually, where I think they have sex. I think that's what they imply here, but I'm not sure. They don't really show that all. But anyways, So then Naomi tells Kendal about how Etienne attacked her before, about her drug abuse, and how she resents them for that, right? And she ended up crashing and doing something to her wrist or something like that. So she blames Etienne and the Roy family for what happened to her, the constant tabloids and the constant negative press attention and all that stuff. Which makes sense and gives some context to this kind of world that they're in with the whole news corporations. And of course, like, Etienne is going to attack the Pierce's daughter, right? And so it is really cool the way this ends up. But Kendal says that the deal is a chance for her to get out of it all. He tells her to take the money and just get out. Just get out, right? And so this is kind of his offer to her at this point. And we see, like, of course, he's pretty high, right? High and drunk probably at this point. Both of them are. But I think that he's actually being genuine here. I think he really is being real, and that he himself would also love to just get out of it like he tells her to. He'd love to get some money and just be out of the whole thing, right? And I think... and the way he offers this to her, it's like, well, that's really what he wants, right? That's really what he wants, and he knows exactly how Naomi's feeling, and I think they can really relate to each other. And that's the way that scene plays out. And then later, of course, we know that this had some influence on Naomi because she's on their side. So really interesting stuff here. And again, they're both high, they're both pretty drunk, they're both pretty much out of it, but I thought there were some really genuine lines here, and some really great acting by Jeremy Strong, and the woman who played Naomi Pierce. I can't remember the actress's name, but anyways. So, next morning then at breakfast, this was an awesome thing. So Roman walks in and tells Tabitha that he jacked off in Gerry's bathroom, but it's in a joking manner, right? It's a Roman joking manner, right? You can't tell if he's joking or not. It's just really dark humor. Anyways, and so... he says this, and then Gerry replies, even as a joke, that is a stomach-turning thought. But it's like, they actually did. Like, he actually did jerk off in Gerry's bathroom, and she actually participated in it. And I just thought, like, this is such great writing here, because, of course, nobody would ever believe that happened, but Roman is actually telling the truth about it. And so it kind of comes off as humor, comes off as just this way that Roman jokes, but it actually did happen. And so anyways, I just thought that was a really great thing there, really great writing there for Roman, just playing it off perfectly, but that actually did happen, right? And so, as somebody finds out a little bit later on, maybe they'll be able to say, oh, like, you were actually telling the truth then. Anyways, so we'll have to see where that goes. So then Rhea sits with Logan and tells him that the Pierces had a meeting earlier and it's not sounding good, but she says Nan Pierce wants to speak to him, Shiv, Gerry, Marcia, and Kendal right now, and Rhea says, don't worry, it's only life or death, right? And so, no kidding, right? They pretty much blew it at the night before at the dinner. Now they've had this meeting, they're not too confident about it. This really is life or death for Logan and the Roys if they want to close this deal. So this leads to a really, really great scene, one of the best scenes of the season for sure. So, and a really well-acted scene by Brian Cox. So Logan and company arrived to the meeting without Marcia, and he says that she went for a walk, but we obviously know that he purposely did not bring her after last night, right? And she kind of even made things worse at the dinner, saying, like, is that true? And going to him, and she was obviously a little drunk as well. But you obviously can't trust her in a meeting after what happened at the dinner last night, so Logan doesn't bring her. And again, I think that's an interesting dynamic there between Marcia and Logan, and I hope that they explore that a little bit more. Anyway, so Nan Pierce starts off by sharing that she doesn't like Logan and his politics at all. Like, and I love the honesty here, because it's true. Like, the whole rest of the weekend was just sugarcoating. Everybody was acting so fake. And she's just honest. She's like, I don't like you, and I don't like your politics. Like, at all. Right? Anyways, and this is all stuff we knew. But because they have been losing money the last 8 quarters, she says, this is probably the only way that Pierce can survive. Right? So they actually need this money. They need this buyout, pretty much, from the Roys, if they even want to survive. Like, they might not even be able to run this company next year by themselves, right? Because they're operating at such a loss now. And so this is probably the best decision for them, right? So we see Naomi and Rhea are in support of it after Logan agrees to up the deal to $25 billion. So originally they were at $20 billion, and that's what they estimate that Pierce is worth. Now they are all the way up to $25 billion is the offering price now. So Logan goes up to that. And of course, Rhea does some underhanded stuff here, says like, no, but if you went to 25, I would be on your side, right? So she, she just basically gets $1 billion out of Logan here for nothing. Anyways, so then Nan Pierce, so now they have the support of both the other women in here that are on Nan's side, right? Both these girls, Naomi and Rhea. And so then Nan Pierce says that they can reach a deal if the offer is $25 billion, but only on certain terms, including that Tom is not, that he's not the head of news, right? He will not be sticking around as the head of news for what they, what they acquire, right? Pierce will not be run by Tom, right? And which is ridiculous, right? Because Tom is probably actually like a good candidate to run it, because he really isn't fascist or alt-right or something like that, like even like Sid. I'm not saying she's alt-right or anything like that, but you know what I mean? Like, she is the one actually controlling the news. Tom's not doing anything. So they really screw Tom over here, because he really is not that guy, yet they set him up to be, and now Nan just wants him gone. Anyways, so really bad for Tom. And the other big term is that Shiv is being named CEO publicly by Logan. And this is what kind of gets Logan. So, Nan says she's a great look for the Pierce's name, right? They kind of align their politics align with each other, and she's a woman, right? All this stuff. And you have to admit, it would be good optics. And I think Logan even sees that. It would be good optics. But Logan immediately is taken aback by this, and just kind of changes everything in this scene. Like, this term here, he says, he says that he doesn't like doing it that way, right? He doesn't like doing this, and that he's not one to kind of publicly announce things like this, and he's just kind of overall taken aback by these demands, right? I think the Tom, head of news or whatever, and I think she says something about Ravenhead being gone as well. So there's a couple things in there, but especially Shiv, right? He's not okay with this demand, and that he doesn't want to do it, right? And so she then threatens him if he doesn't budge on that, if he doesn't, budge and end up naming Shiv publicly, that they will have no deal. So this ends up, and then, basically comes into a few long seconds of just insane tension here, because she says, if you won't budge, we have no deal. This is it if you don't budge. And Logan just sits there for a few seconds, and it's just complete quiet. Like, nothing is going on. We see, like, a few faces here. We see, they zoom in on a few, right? Kendal, he's kind of there with his sunglasses on, of course. And then Logan replies, well, then we're done, right? Then we're done. And so he quickly gets up and he starts walking out. And on his way out, he asks them if they want to hear his favorite Shakespeare passage. And this was the reference to the dinner before, where Naomi is responsible for, saying this Shakespeare passage instead of a prayer at dinner. And it's just so perfect. Like, this is just so badass from Logan. And he says, my favorite passage is take the fucking money. Such a badass exit here. The best way to exit a room here. And we see he's done with the fake front that they've been putting on this whole weekend, and all the appeasing and all this stuff. He just lets loose, right? He just says, 25 billion, just take the money. Like, stop with all these terms and all this stuff. Just take the money. And to kind of shove it in their face like that with that whole Shakespeare thing, it's just so awesome. So awesome. So anyways, really great sequence plays out there. And then, so we see then the helicopter ride back, which was such a great tension scene here. Such great tension built as we don't know what actually is really happening or what just happened. Because we kind of think, Logan completely fucked things up. Like Logan just completely ruined this whole thing. And now it's over. Like, why would he do that after all of this stuff that's happened? And then we see Shiv kind of question him on what happened in there, right? Like, what are you doing? What happened in there? And she's kind of like us audience and asking that question. And we see he has no reply, and he instead checks his phone and sees nothing. Then he looks over to Gerry, and Gerry shakes her head at him as if, he's looking for something on his phone there. And Gerry says, no, it's not there. And so then we see he punches the side window in anger, just completely loses it again. And I love this line where the pilot's like, if there's anything wrong, just fly your whirlybird, or whatever he says. Just an awesome line there as well. So then we see as they land and he gets off, he's on a helipad and he gets a phone call and it's told the news, and he just shouts, "That's goddamn fucking right," right? And he is just like elated at this point about the news. So the deal is done here, right? So his tactic ended up working, and the Pierces really did just take the money. So all of these terms, all this stuff, throw it out the window. They just said yes, and they're just taking the $25 billion. And that's exactly what Logan wanted. And so his approach ended up working somehow, right? I mean, somehow. So anyways, then we see Greg, or now he's known as Gregory, apparently, comes to congratulate them on the win at the apartment. I thought this just so perfect. And I was thinking this episode, I'm like, Greg's not in this episode. Like, this is terrible, right? You got to see Greg. And he comes in at the end. It's just awesome. But anyways, I just thought this is so perfect now that he's going by Gregory with his new promotion. So he kind of sees himself as this, higher end man, right? And so now he has to go by Gregory. It just sounds better, right? Anyways, I thought that was really great. Nicholas Braun was great here, and starts congratulating everybody, like, "Oh, it's a big deal," and all this stuff. And everyone's just kind of sitting there, like, yeah, we did it, right? Like, and Kendal just kind of chilling there. Anyways, so Logan gets up and tells the family, money wins, right? And that's kind of his answer to what happened, is that they just couldn't refuse the $25 billion. That's essentially what happened, and money ends up winning in the long run. And he says, "Here's to us," as they kind of toast, all of them kind of get the champagne, they toast, and kind of in celebration of the deal. And then we see Logan gives Shiv this look and then walks away, and that's kind of where we end off the episode. But this look, I think, was big. It didn't seem like much, but I think this was big. I don't think that he is going to forgive her anytime soon for this blunder at the dinner, let alone making her CEO anytime soon either. That was a big blunder by Shiv, and I think she's going to pay for it. I think there's going to be consequences with this, because we see Logan doesn't take things lightly. So this deal goes through, but we're going to have to see what happens to Shiv and him going forward. Anyways, that's where this one ends this week. Alright, so in terms of a rating for this episode, I'm going to give this one a 4.6 out of 5. So this is the lowest rating, I believe, so far. I think it's the lowest rating. And I just thought, the only reason for, I guess the lowest rating, but it's still an awesome episode, don't get me wrong. But I just thought the first half of the episode seemed a little bit unbalanced in terms of pacing. But the second half really picked it up, right? And especially the last 5 to 10 minutes just really picked up the pacing and really made for some really great tense scenes, mainly being the meeting with the Pierces and then the helicopter ride after and all that stuff. So just a really great sequence to end off the episode here. And I just thought the beginning took a little bit to get into it, whereas a lot of these other episodes, the 4 episodes so far, I feel like they just really kind of catapulted into these episodes and really got going rather quickly. But anyways, that's just my only complaint. I just thought, just overall, this episode just felt a little bit more mellow and a little bit kind of drawn back from some of the other episodes. And that kind of brings me to this, is that I thought there was less comedy in this one, though I thought it was still a great balance between drama and comedy, and I thought there were some really great comedic moments, but that's where I kind of think it's kind of drawn back, as I just think the comedy wasn't as, prominent, I guess, in the story. I think they opted for more tense, dramatic, serious moments here throughout the episode, which worked really, really well. And again, that's just a testament to how good that balance is, and that they can go to these dramatic places, in an episode like this, and the scene to end off last episode too, for sure, right? And then they can go all the way to that comedic moment, and I'll just lose it, right? It's hilarious. And so, again, just an amazing balance there. But I do think this one is a little bit less comedic than some others. Anyways, I thought the subplots with Kendal and Roman were also really great, especially the Roman one. That's going to be one to watch going forward, and I like the Kendal one, and I think it really does speak to what he feels about the current situation, and that he really does want out as well. Like, if he was in Naomi's position, he would have taken the money and he would have got out. And so it's really interesting there to see, and Kendal's been such an interesting character this season. Of course he was in season 1. as well. But this one, I feel like they're really exploring. They're really going into kind of his mental state, and I really love it. I love it, and Jeremy Strong is killing it, man. Just absolutely killing it. So, and then we see Logan is finally pushed in this episode by Shiv. I think this is one of the first times, maybe I guess the scene where you want to say the scene in season 1 where Kendal brings him the letter, right? Basically informing him that he's completely backstabbing him and that they're going to take over Waystar Royco, right, with him and Sandy and Stewie. Maybe that scene, but I think this one was even more so of him getting pushed or kind of defeated in a way by Shiv at the dinner table. So anyways, we'll have to see how he reacts to this and how Shiv and his relationship is going forward. I don't think it's going to be good. I think this is all downhill for Shiv. And we see also in this one too, it's like, so if he really was going to give Shiv the CEO and he was confident about it, wouldn't he have just went with it and told the Pierces that he was confident that he was going to do this? So I think all of this just means that he's not going to make Shiv CEO, and I don't think he really had any intentions to do so. I think this has really kind of gone out of hand in his view, right? And he's like, oh, we got to backtrack here, right? And so we'll have to see, like I said, where that relationship goes, and we'll have to see how Shiv fares going forward in terms of that relationship with Logan. But anyways, so my favorite character for this one, I gotta go with Roman Roy, and I'm not sure how he hasn't been my character spotlight yet, but anyways, Kieran Culkin, a fantastic job at this role. I don't know if anyone could do the same kind of role. I just think he's perfect for this. And he got the Golden Globe for season 1. Unfortunately, he didn't get the Emmy nomination, but I'm really hoping that he gets the Emmy nomination for this season by the time the Emmys roll around next year. He is an amazing actor, and he's doing such a great job in this. And again, these dramatic moments he's good at, and then he goes all the way to these comedic moments where he gets dark. Like, he's probably the darkest humor out of any of the characters. And he goes dark, and it's funny, right? Well, I guess if you're into that kind of humor and you kind of find that funny, that's funny. But then he comes down to those serious moments where we've seen it already in this season, and he's so great at that too. So anyways, I really look forward to what they do with Roman the rest of the season and how this whole training program goes and where they take his character. I'm really looking forward to this ride, and Kieran Culkin is doing an amazing job, as the rest of the cast is too, right? Definitely want to give a shout out to everyone involved, especially some of the guest actors in this one, Sherry Jones, and Craig Kittleman stood out for sure. They were really great. But anyways, guys, and Holly Hunter too. I almost forgot about her, but there we go. So anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this one. Really enjoying this season of Succession, and I'm just hoping the second half is just as good. I can't wait. I really can't wait. And now that they've acquired Pierce, I don't know where this Sandy and Stewie thing's going to go. So that's also an interesting thing to watch for as well. But anyways, guys, again, thanks so much for watching this one. Love to hear your guys' thoughts on this episode. What do you think of it? And all that stuff. Love to discuss it with you guys in the comments. But anyways, we'll see you then next week for Succession Season 2, Episode 6.